SUVs are still big business these days, so we decided to bring two of the most recommended vehicles out for a little head-to-head. The Kia Sorento has been pretty heavily refreshed this year, and that makes it a perfect rival for the always impressive and very popular Jeep Grand Cherokee. I can't get enough of either of these two trucks, and I know they're not direct competitors, but they both offer a lot of value for the money. Now, Kia has given the Sorento a pretty good refresh and made the front and rear bumpers look more aggressive and sporty. You can also get a full LED lighting system, and I actually quite like the Ice Cube fog lights. However, I don't like all of the fake plastic in the grille. Now, completing the rugged SUV look, Kia has also given this car a pretty tough-looking skid plate on the back. But the bigger story is inside the vehicle, where Kia's made a lot of small changes that really add up. Let's talk about how versatile the interior of this car is, with multiple seating arrangements. Now, that third row is pretty tight, but it folds with a 50-50 split, and the second row has a 40-20-40 split. Now, behind the third row, you can get 11 cubic feet of storage, but when you fold everything down, you get around 73 cubic feet. The seats can also be wrapped with a nice Nappa leather that brings to mind the Stinger GT. But one complaint I have about the Sorento is the seating position, especially in regards to the outboard armrest, which is a bit too short. Kia also updated many of the touch points in the cabin. The steering wheel and shift knob get a new look and feel, as do the air vents and center console. The gauge cluster has also been updated, making it modern and easier to understand. You can get a huge dual-pane sunroof, dual-zone climate control, heated and vented seats, a heated steering wheel, a power liftgate, and a 630-watt, 10-speaker surround sound system. The Sorento is available with a 185 horsepower 4-cylinder or a 290 horsepower V6, which is what we have. Now, that 2-liter turbo is no longer available, but Kia says that a diesel engine is on the way soon. I wouldn't hold my breath about that, though. You can get the 4-cylinder with a 6-speed auto, but when you get a V6, you also get 2 more gears. And the vehicle comes in either front or all-wheel drive, which is what we have. All-wheel drive models send power to the wheels with the most traction, and there's a 4-wheel drive lock that evenly distributes power between the front and rear axles. Now, all-wheel drive versions also come with something called torque vectoring cornering control, which will actually enhance the cornering capability of the car. Now, this engine is actually pretty capable, and it feels really good when passing, but it just doesn't sound very good at all, especially at full throttle. Overall, I wouldn't say there isn't a lot to get excited about this powertrain. It just tows 5,000 pounds, which is a little bit less than what the Jeep offers. Kia's also done away with the usual drive mode selector and replaced it with something called the Smart Shift and Drive mode, which will actually detect the way you're driving and automatically set up a drive mode that suits your needs. It actually works really well and can shift between sport, eco, or comfort mode as needed. But if you don't like the setting it chooses for you, you can select one yourself. I actually really like the gear changes in this car. They're snappy and they're responsive, and I find them to be a little bit better than what you get in the Jeep. And where this car really excels over the Grand Cherokee is with its road manners. It should come as no surprise that the Sorento delivers really good road manners. It feels more like a car than a truck, so it's really responsive. The steering is really nice, if a little heavy, but that gives you a good sense of control. It doesn't feel like any curves or corners will trip it up. It doesn't feel like it's getting in the way of itself, which is the way that most SUVs and crossovers feel on the road. Now, combined, this car will get 21 miles per gallon, and that's exactly the same as the Jeep, so those two cars are even there. But let's talk about pricing. You can get base models of the Sorento with the 4-cylinder and front-wheel drive for around $27,000. But fully loaded versions, which are really luxurious, like this car, cost around $47,000. That's a pretty big gap, but it shows how versatile the Sorento is. Now, the Jeep is pretty capable as well and has really good performance, so let's jump into that and see how it handles. Now, the Grand Cherokee is another favorite of mine and many other people out there, with 240,000 people buying one of these trucks last year. Now, the reason for its popularity is that you can get it in so many different options and configurations. You can get it with a pedestrian V6 or Hemi V8, or you can shun the typical Jeep off-road ruggedness for a badass street version in the SRT or Trackhawk models. Now, the car we have here is a limited model with the limited Sterling package. Now that celebrates the 25th anniversary of the Grand Cherokee, and it adds some platinum accents around the car, as well as those big 20-inch wheels. And while the Grand Cherokee has a fancy all-wheel drive system and limitless off-road capability, it's a little less versatile, at least in comparison to the Kia Sorento. You see, this car doesn't yet have a third row of seating, and the maximum cargo capacity is just around 68 cubic feet. Fortunately, these seats are super wide and accommodating, and the rear seats even have an entertainment system. Yeah, it's like a movie theater back there, and you can even attach a video game console or a Blu-ray player with an HDMI cable. On the surface, the interior upholstery looks pretty nice too, yet I'll admit that this trim package just isn't appealing to me. There could be a few more luxury touches in here to give off a more premium vibe. You'll definitely notice the harder materials throughout the cabin, which feel low grade. But like the Kia, there's a never-ending list of features in here, although nothing that the Sorento doesn't have. The Jeep does have a fantastic and modern-feeling Uconnect infotainment system, as well as a better-looking digital gauge cluster. As soon as you hit the road, the Grand Cherokee feels more like a truck than the Kia Sorento does, and I mean that in both a good and a bad way. It does sop up any imperfections on the road, even with these 20-inch wheels. But as a result, everything inside the car just feels a little bit looser, like the steering and the throttle response. And under the hood of this car is a 3.6-liter V6 engine, the very popular Pentastar V6, and that makes 295 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, both of which are increases over the Kia. And that engine is paired to an 8-speed automatic that is surprisingly well sorted out. It always knows what gear to be in, and I'm really impressed with FCA for figuring this out. But the more important feature of any Grand Cherokee is the select terrain system, as well as the optional air suspension. Now, our car has the optional rear load leveling suspension setup that helps keep the rear end of the car level and sorted out. And that select terrain system means that you can dial in the road conditions and you can feel confident with the car being able to sort out all of the traction issues that you may have. And for all of the good that this car feels off-road, I will say it just doesn't feel as smooth on-road as that Kia does. That Kia feels more of a car and this feels more of a truck. So depending on your personal preference, you'll be able to tell which one of these two cars is for you. It's clear what kind of audience the Grand Cherokee is trying to cater to. This truck can tow 6,200 pounds, which is perfect for the adventuring and outdoorsy types. And because these are both brand new trucks, they both come with an unlimited supply of driver assistance and safety features. Yes, they both have adaptive cruise control with stop and start capability. They also have lane keeping assistance and forward collision warning, and they both have wicked rear view cameras. I can't definitively say which one is safer or better than the other in this regard, but the IIHS can, and they've already rated the 2019 Kia Sorento as a top safety pick plus. But back to the Grand Cherokee. At its base level, you can get it for around $30,000, but this vehicle, as loaded up as it is, and this is with a V6, not a Hemi V8, will cost you just under $50,000. That's a lot of money for a car that isn't quite at the level of luxury that the Kia Sorento has. Basically what I'm saying is, if you want the off-road rugged capability of the Grand Cherokee, you have to be willing to pay for it. The Jeep is a little less refined on-road, but it makes up for it with excellent off-road capability and confidence, while the Kia is better suited for the everyday commute, as well as a family with that massive interior. It's a pretty close call, but I'll have to give the win to the Kia because it suits more people's budget and lifestyle.